Dear patrons, our next company really needs no introduction. Over the past year, it has become one of the more popular companies in the microcap space. Byrna Technologies, ticker BYRN, is all about protecting and empowering yourself today. The company's Byrna's HD is a powerful and effective non-lethal option for those of us that need a self-defense weapon that is easy to store and carry. I always keep mine close to the vest. Joining us on the call today, it is my privilege to welcome Mr. Brian Gans, the CEO of Byrna Technologies. Brian, thank you again for presenting to our community today. The floor is now yours.
Chris, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity. I want to welcome everybody to the presentation. This is a very, very exciting opportunity for me. I have been a serial entrepreneur my whole life, and I've been involved with a number of different businesses in different industries, but I can honestly say this is the most exciting business that I've ever been involved with. And I think we have a very unique opportunity here, not only to build a really remarkable business, but at the same time to really help society. As everybody knows, there has been significant increases in civil unrest and the demand for police reform. And we think that this provides a tailwind for Byrna to be able to provide to both law enforcement and the community at large effective, safe, reliable security devices that will allow someone to stop an assailant without the risk of taking a life or causing permanent injury. What I'd like to do this morning is just to walk through the history of Byrna, how we got to where we are today, and what are we looking forward to in the future. Okay. So, of course, there's the safe harbor statement here. I'm not going to read through it, but I would urge everybody to take a look at this. Not just because our internal counsel has told me to say that, but because it is important. We are a new company. Our growth from 2019 to 2020 was over 1,700%. So when you're in that type of growth mode, it's very, very difficult to accurately forecast. And I think it's important to understand where we think our forecasts have some risk, or what sort of things we could that could occur that could change our projections. Okay. Prior to 2018, Byrna, which was at the time called Security Devices International, was in the business of creating, manufacturing, and selling 40 millimeter impact projectiles. These impact projectiles are fired from grenade launchers. They weigh quite a bit. Our BIP, blunt impact projectile, weighs 51 grams, 51 ounces. And it's an impact projectile that has the ability to take down an assailant at great distance without causing permanent injury or death. It is the gold standard of 40 millimeter less lethal projectiles. The problem that we had when I came into the company is that this product is available only to law enforcement and to the military. In order to use this 40 millimeter projectile, which is fired, as I said, out of a grenade launcher, you need to have a Class 10 federal firearms license. I think I'm one of the 10 people in the United States that has this license, and of course, only because I am the CEO of Byrna. This is a license that allows you to carry all manner of very lethal firearms. And as a result, we were a highly regulated industry. Because we were able to focus only on law enforcement, we went after a very, very fragmented market. So I think recently a lot of people have heard the statistics because of the riots this past summer, have heard the statistics that there are 18,500 law enforcement agencies in the United States. Each one of them makes their own procurement decisions, and no one will make any purchasing decision without a live fire demonstration. So what Security Devices was doing prior to my joining the company is that they had a number of former law enforcement officers that were setting up meetings with individual police departments. Again, there's 18,000 of them, so it's a real Johnny Appleseed type of enterprise. But they were setting up meetings with individual police departments, going out and putting on a demonstration. The problem for Security Devices is this was not an economic way to go to market. Every night we would have to contact the Department of State, let them know where our 40 millimeter launchers were, because God forbid they would fall into the hands of terrorists. You'd be spending the rest of your life explaining to the FBI how you lost this quite deadly launcher. So we decided that we wanted to pivot the company so that we could go after not just law enforcement and not just the military, but we wanted to go after the highly coveted consumer market and private security market with something that was unregulated. So in order to get out from under the auspices of the ATF and the Department of State, we needed to do two things. We needed to eliminate the pyrotechnic charge. So our BIP is currently uses a 38 blank to fire the projectile. And we needed to eliminate the rifling in the barrel, because the rifling in the barrel, which causes the round to spin stabilize, for explosive devices, this is what arms the device. So if you were to fire a high explosive from a smooth barreled launcher, it would fire at the tank, it would hit the tank, and it would just simply drop to the ground and not detonate. Once this high explosive, however, has rotated 5 times, now it's armed. And now when it hits the tank, it's going to detonate. So we had to eliminate the rifling in the barrel. The problem with eliminating the rifling in the barrel is once you eliminate the rifling in the barrel, you don't have spin stabilization in flight. So instead of being a Tom Brady spiral, which is accurate, you've got a Tim Wakefield knuckleball, which is moving all over the place. And we are finding it very difficult to keep our accuracy without having the rifling in the barrel and without coming up with some way to spin stabilize the round. I remember having met a very prolific inventor at the SHOT Show, and he had come up with a patented tail fin that he was using with 68 caliber rounds. And this patented tail fin caused the round to spin stabilize in flight. And he put on an amazing demonstration, but was able to shoot at a 4-inch wide lamppost at 87 meters with a smooth bore barrel launcher. It was really a remarkable feat of shooting, but it told me that we could get our round to spin stabilize in flight without putting rifling in the barrel. So I invited this gentleman up to Boston. We ended up, getting along famously, and he starts telling me about other ideas that he has. So he says he's working on a personal security device that would be compact, would fire a 68 caliber chemical irritant round, both a round ball projectile and ultimately these tail fin fired rounds. And it was like that cartoon where the light bulb goes off and all of a sudden I see this market. So whereas there may be a market for 10,000 of these 40 millimeter launchers that we can sell to private security and to the consumers, most of them are going to go to, Michigan militia types that want to shoot a watermelon off a stone wall at 100 paces. But if I could come up with a truly concealable effective, reliable, non-lethal personal security device that would stop an assailant at distance, this is a game changer. The market for this is in the millions. So we immediately bought Andre's company, we bought his IP, and we went into the business of developing what is today the Byrna. So 2019, we launched the Byrna. Our first sales were on May 31st. And I remember that date well because it was the last day of our second quarter. And as we started to go to market, we were selling just a couple of units a day. 1, 2, 3 units a day. We were having a very hard time getting traction. We were selling through our own developed website using Shopify. But again, at the time, we had a half a dozen employees, and we had put together this company essentially as a startup to launch this Byrna HD, which was at the time our signature product. In July, I convinced a guy by the name of Don Porter, who's also known as Such, very well-known gun reviewer, to review our product. Now, he was hesitant at first because it's not a lethal firearm, but after he tried it, he did a review, 17-minute review. It initially got, 150,000 views. I think today, if you look at it, there's probably 1 million views of this video. And he talked about how effective this was and how there was an opportunity not to replace a firearm, of course, but to augment the firearm for where it doesn't make sense to take the firearm, or where legally you cannot take the firearm, or to provide to your wife or your young daughter that doesn't want to carry a firearm. And sales started to take off. And we went from, selling 1, 2, 3 a day to selling 5 a day, 8 a day, 10 a day. And this was as a result of getting more and more people to the Byrna website. So by the end of the year, we were getting about 500 people a day coming to the Byrna website. Our conversion rate was about 1.6%. So that 500 a day was about translated into 8 sales a day. And then in January, that jumped to 1,000 web visits. And in February to 2,000, and in March to 3,000. And then by June, we were at 7,000 web visits a day, and we were selling approximately 100 launchers a day. And then on June 9th, Sean Hannity, who I had met through one of our investors and had spent a little time with him in his backyard shooting the Byrna, Sean Hannity went on his evening show, and he gave what was a big surprise to us, a full-throated endorsement of the product. Now, like every other Shopify entrepreneur, I had my phone set to ding every time we got a sale, because when you're getting, 100 sales a day, it's exciting, it's encouraging, it gets everybody's, juices going. All of a sudden, I thought my phone was going to catch on fire. This phone just ringing and ringing and ringing. And I looked down at my phone, and there's 55,000 people on the website. That night, we did 2.4 million in sales. Within the next 2 days, we did a total of 20,000 units sold. It was amazing. Just simply amazing. Now, at the time that this was happening, we went on to our website and we immediately said 12 plus weeks for delivery. We stopped all advertising because we really had an issue. I've been in the manufacturing game my entire life, and I've always said to my folks that it's important to balance production and sales. And if one of them gets out of line in either direction, it creates a lot of stress on the business. And let me tell you this, we created tremendous stress on the business. We were producing 100 launchers a day. We are now 25,000 units back ordered. So we went during COVID from producing 100 a day to 1,000 a day in 6 months, partly through the opening of a new US-based manufacturing facility in Fort Wayne. But we also ramped up production in South Africa from that 100 a day to 600 a day. And I am very pleased to say that we are essentially out of our back order situation. If you go on our website right now, it says 2 weeks for delivery. The truth is, I think there's less than 1,000 units that are back ordered currently. And I would expect that by next week, that we will be back to shipping, if not same day, then certainly next day. It's my birthday on Saturday. And I told the team the best birthday present they could give me would be to be completely out of our back order situation and back to same day shipping by my birthday. So we anticipate that we are going to be able to make that announcement next week. We don't know what that's going to mean to sales. We don't know, what sort of negative impact the shipping delays have had in terms of the conversion rate. But we are already, with the reduction in the amount of time necessary from 12 weeks to 10 weeks to 8 weeks to now 2 weeks, we're seeing a continual increase in our conversion rate from 1.2% to 1.4, 1.6. This week, we've seen a couple of days where our conversion rate is over 2%. So as we look forward, we think we're just at the beginning. Well, 2020 was a transformative year for Byrna, where we went from 10 employees at the beginning of the year to 165 employees at the end of the year, from 924,000 in sales in 2019 to 16.5 million of sales in 2020. This year that we're currently in, 2021, is an even more important year. And it's not more important because I anticipate the same type of growth on a percentage basis, but now we have a chance to actually begin to execute. When you're growing at 1,700%, both in terms of your sales, in terms of your production, in terms of your employees, it's hard to put in place all of the good procedures and policies that you need to be a really world-class company. And this is what we're doing this year. Okay. So I want to just play a quick video for you that shows how the Byrna works. So as you can see, this is a very, very easy weapon to use. We have now sold approximately 50,000 of these Byrna HDs. We're selling them primarily to civilians, although we have had more and more interest from law enforcement. And the interesting thing, of course, is that we went to the Byrna HD to get out of the law enforcement market, the very, very difficult and slow and cumbersome sales process, to go to the civilian market. And what was attractive to civilians is that there is no waiting period. There's no background check. There's no license or permit required on a federal level. There are some states and municipalities have some prohibitions on the use of pepper spray, but for the most part, there is broad accessibility. Now, this launcher, this weapon system, we didn't know whether this was going to be really attractive to gun owners or to non-gun owners. But as it turns out, we live at the intersection of gun owners and non-gun owners. I've been a gun owner for quite some time. I have my concealed carry permit. I own a number of lethal handguns. But as I would say to people when we went to gun shows, if I'm really honest with myself, I don't know how quick I would be to pull the trigger. And if I hesitate, is that a fatal second for me? And if I don't hesitate, am I making a fatal mistake? So, carrying a gun is an enormous burden. I never left the house without it. I was always convinced that, I'm going to stop that movie theater shooting. But the truth is that I'm not sure how effective I would be, not trained to the extent that the police are trained, firing a lethal firearm in the midst of a crowd. On the other hand, with the Byrna, I would never hesitate to pull the trigger. So if I hit a bystander, there is no harm. If by mistake I shoot the paperboy coming up the driveway, well, a half hour later, he's fine, and I'll leave a bigger tip at Christmas. But, I'm able to pull the trigger, and the launcher is extremely effective in stopping a would-be assailant. Now, on the other end of the spectrum are non-gun owners who, for whatever reason, because for philosophical reasons, or they have small children at home, decide that they don't want to have a firearm in the house. We have seen significant interest in this group as well. So, as I say, we live at the intersection of gun owners that want to have something non-lethal in their arsenal and non-gun owners that want some way to protect themselves. Okay. What is the size of the market? Well, there are 120 million households in the United States. So we always play this little game here. What percentage of that market can we get? Can we get 1%, 2%, 5%? 1%, of course, is 1.2 million homeowners. There are also 90 million gun owners in the United States. What percentage of those can we get? Boaters, truckers, owners of convenience stores, real estate agents, hikers and campers. There's all manner of demographic that we think the Byrna makes a lot of sense for. And even the demographic of families that just want to be able to keep their family safe, but also able to practice in their backyard. So with my 9mm Glock 19, if I want to fire this, I'm driving to the range, and I'm spending several hours to be able to go practice with my weapon. I have a place on Cape Cod. I've got 3 daughters and several grandchildren. And while we're cooking our steaks, we practice right in the backyard. And it's more than just having fun. It's making sure that my kids are familiar with how to use the launcher so that in the event they needed to use it in a real life situation, they're ready and prepared to do it. I'll go through this very quickly. The launcher is a really complicated piece of equipment. There's 114 parts, 93 are unique, 65 are custom-made parts. There are multiple patents involved. This was part of the reason that it was so difficult for us to ramp up production. Nonetheless, we ramped up production by more than 1,000%. This year, our market cap has grown by more than 1,000%. And of course, sales are up by more than 1,000%. We believe that we're creating a strong brand recognition, but frankly, we're really just at the beginning. There aren't a lot of people who really know what Byrna is, but my job is to change that. We've significantly expanded the Byrna team in 2020, and I'm not going to go through every person here, but I can say, this was something that was really developed by myself and our Chief Technology Officer, Andre Byrna, who has now moved to the United States to head up the R&D team. Everybody else sort of has come on more recently, but we did bring on a Chief Financial Officer this year, which was critical. Luan Pham, a Chief Marketing and Revenue Officer, who has a storied pedigree from Ralph Lauren and Golf Digest over at Condé Nast, and most recently helping really create and develop layered superfoods, which was taken public last year for approximately $500 million. We brought in a director of human resources, a chief supply chain officer. So we now have a very strong team that will help guide the business into 2021 and beyond. This is our basic kit. This is the Byrna HD Pepper Kit. We sell a ready kit that comes with the launcher, several CO2 refills. It comes with solid projectiles, which we call kinetic rounds, inert projectiles, which are practice projectiles, so you can see the size of the cloud, and then, of course, the chemical irritant projectiles. In addition to the kit, because this is sort of like that old Lay's potato chip ad, you get the launcher and you shoot the solid projectiles, you shoot the inert projectiles, and then the question is, what's next? People are buying 95 count practice rounds, extra CO2, holsters, lasers, logo wear. So our average sale price is well over the $359 MSRP for this Byrna launcher kit. We've been asked a lot, how does it compare to other types of less lethal weapons, and how does it compare to other competitors that offer the same sort of product? So these launchers, which are called 68 caliber chemical irritant launchers, these are really the most effective launcher because, as you can see, they are effective at range. So most everything else, whether it's pepper spray or taser or bolo wrap, you need to be quite close. And in fact, in the case of a taser, not just quite close, but not too close, not too far. There's sort of a Goldilocks issue there, where if you're too close, it doesn't work. If you're too far, it doesn't work. These are largely one-shot weapons. The Byrna gives somebody the ability to stop a threat at distance, which we think is the single most important differentiator between us and other weapons. And then how does it compare to the other 68 caliber launchers? I think the single most important thing is that we're able to fit a huge amount of technology in a very small piece of real estate. So you can see it versus the Pepperball TCP on the left. In the center, this is Tippmann's product, which is marketed under Salt Supply, Saber. Pepperball also has a flashlight, which they call the Lifelight, which is both very large and frankly, somewhat difficult to aim. It's just not an intuitive way to aim a product. We offer a number of different rounds. We have Byrna Max, which is it comes with both OC and CS, which is tear gas. We have the Byrna Pepper, which is our basic round, which is an OC formulation, a pepper formulation. We have the kinetic round, which there's actually, if you go on to YouTube, you can see a picture of me being hit with the kinetic round in the thigh. And I utter a few choice swear words as I jump up and down because it really hurts. And in many cases, it is adequate to stop an assailant. If the assailant is truly motivated and you need to go to the next level, the Byrna Pepper or the Byrna Max will be able to stop them essentially by causing a temporary blindness. The burning sensation causes people to close their eyes, to grab for their throat. Most people fall to the ground. It is a very, very effective way. If you've ever seen anybody hit in the eyes with pepper spray, you know that they simply cannot keep their eyes open. And the fin projectile that you'll see at the end is coming late this year. This is the projectile that will allow the round to spin stabilize in flight, which will give us accuracy at distances well beyond 60 feet. We have a number of new products in the development pipeline. This new HD Elite launcher will be coming to market very, very shortly. You can see a slight difference in the trigger. It has an improved ergonomics, improved receiver, improved trigger, improved sighting systems. And it will be a fully assembled in the USA product. And I expect that to be available for sale in May or June. The Byrna XL, you can see, is like getting an Audi A8L. It's a longer version. Now, what's the benefit of a longer version? Well, first off, it shoots the round faster. Secondly, it allows for the user to use a 12-gram CO2 cartridge, which is much more readily available than the 8-gram cartridge. So if you're traveling around the country and you want to go into some local party store to buy a 12-gram cartridge, that's easy to find. One of the things that I'm frankly the most excited about is using our 68 caliber fin tail projectile, which we will call the Helix, in a 12 gauge shell. There are, depending on who you ask, between 140 and 300 million 12 gauge shotguns in the world. If we can give them something truly less lethal, effective, that they don't have to buy a new platform, that they can just go out and buy a $55 or $60 box of 10 projectiles, for their existing 12 gauge shotgun, we think the market potential for this is enormous. And it will also then create a demand for the long gun launchers that will shoot the Helix without the 12 gauge casing. The Byrna LE launcher, which will be coming out in the second half of this year, is designed specifically for law enforcement. It will have fiber optic sights, a 7-round mag. It will have has a much improved valve system and regulator, allowing for both firing at higher speeds, more consistent speeds, and severe cold weather use. And all the way on the right, you can see the Byrna PE launcher. It's not particularly to scale because this is actually more compact than the LE or HD, which are built on the same frame. One of the complaints that we get is that the launcher is a little large. And although the launcher is, in fact, the same distance as a compact launcher across the barrel and the same distance down the grip, it is a little bit wider because it has a 68 caliber bore. So with a 49 caliber round, we can make this maybe 3/8 of an inch thicker. It will carry more rounds. It'll be more concealable. It will work better for those with smaller hands. And then we are working on a few things which I'll just tease everybody here. This is something that we're hoping to bring out later this year. I'm very excited about this product, but we'll let everybody know where we stand as we get a little further down the development pipeline. Okay. In addition to selling e-commerce, we have signed up 300 plus dealers. We are going to be adding Amazon to our distribution sales channel. Based on what we see with other similar companies, we should expect over time that our sales at Amazon will be the same as or perhaps eclipse our own e-commerce sales. To the extent that we could sell as much as possible through e-commerce, both organically and with Amazon, we will not try to build the dealer model too robustly because, of course, our margins are much better on the e-commerce model. But we do have about 300 plus dealers right now that we are actively supporting. We're putting together a strong program for them. And over time, as our list of products expands, as our production capabilities expand, we would expect also for our dealer footprint to expand. As I mentioned, and I'll go through this relatively quickly as this is not a significant part of Byrna's business yet. We were approached this summer by a number of law enforcement agencies, and we have created a law enforcement division headed up by a number of highly decorated, recognized senior law enforcement officers. We think that there's a lot of pressure that's going to be put on law enforcement to adopt more and better, less lethal and non-lethal products and training. And we are working diligently to be the solution for law enforcement. Just very quickly, the reason for this is that the current number one less lethal product, which is the taser, has caused 1,081 deaths. The cost of these deaths is enormous for the communities. Last year, there were 992 people shot and killed in the US, and the number of people shot and killed that did not have any weapon on them is still in the hundreds. So it's creating a community pushback. And I think law enforcement really wants to find an effective way for dealing with threats that does not result in the taking of a life. So you can see municipalities lost 172 million. In New York City alone, 175 million in civil judgments. And the law enforcement market it's not as large as the consumer market, but keep in mind that companies like Taser have essentially or Axon have made their entire business on the law enforcement market. We're using a T3 Train the Trainer program, and I'm going to give you a quick video here. This is Josh Gerard, head of our training.
The Byrna Law Enforcement Division has developed, implemented, and is currently conducting a progressive and innovative program for professionals who put their lives on the line to protect and defend our communities every day. This 8-hour Train the Trainer course, available to law enforcement, military, corrections, and security professionals, is broken down into several modules. A classroom portion covering use of force concepts, law, and application, and how the Byrna fits into the current less lethal landscape. Students also spend a considerable amount of time in a range environment learning how to properly operate the Byrna launcher and participating in reality-based training scenarios, learning not just how, but when to utilize the Byrna. Students that complete the course will be Byrna certified instructors, allowing them to certify end users at their respective departments and agencies to deploy the Byrna launchers. Certified instructors also gain access to Byrna's instructor portal, which contains a continually maintained library of up-to-date training and presentation materials, sample policies, and instructional videos to assure Byrna certified instructors can continue to deliver the best training to those that will be deploying the Byrna every day. The Byrna launchers provide officers and security professionals with options that they have never before had available to them, by giving them a tactic that allows them to reliably triple the effective distance of anything else they have ever been able to carry on their belt until now. The Byrna is changing the paradigm of how less lethal force can be applied by officers worldwide. For those wanting to join a progressive reformation in less lethal technology, visit LD.Byrna.com to see our current training calendar or to inquire about hosting a training in your area. Until then, live safe. All right, let's go.
So again, just in conclusion, our strategy here is both civilian and law enforcement. And in law enforcement, just to let you guys know, we're actually really focusing on school safety. One of the premier school safety officers in the United States is heading up this program. It is just at the very, very early stages, but I have very, very high hopes for this. We feel that if we could knock down a few dominoes, a few school districts, that this is something that will really start to take off. I'm going to skip through this. As I mentioned, we have a new production facility in the US here, so that we will have a product that's fully assembled in the US. This is the Sean Hannity endorsement that sort of kicked everything off. And we're hopeful. As you know, Sean Hannity is very, very supportive of the boys in blue. We're hopeful that as we increase our law enforcement presence, Sean has agreed to come and participate in one of our training sessions. We think that he'll find that this is a very, very effective tool for law enforcement. And finally, we think that this is a lifestyle brand. We're looking to bring out all sorts of other lifestyle products that will go with this, including go packs and ballistic backpacks and whistles and logo wear. So, one of the things I say to my folks is keep in mind that Amazon started selling only books. So we want to be the go-to shop for less lethal, non-lethal products and gear. The financials, again, I'll run through this very quickly. This presentation will be on our website. I think it's actually now already up and on our website. We're guiding next year to $33 to $38 million, up from $16.6 million. We're looking at a Q1 number of a Q1 estimate of 8.8 million. I know that we've gotten some comments that if we're already doing 9 million in the first quarter, why aren't we projecting a higher number? Keep in mind that some of that 9 million was filling back orders. Our order rates have not been running at 9 million, although they are growing every quarter. So we do see this as continued sustainable growth. We did have to work through that sort of pig in the python moment of the Sean Hannity surge in orders. But as important as that was, what's more important to us is the sustainability of the growth. And again, you can see our average web sessions moving up. We got a very high number as a result of the Sean Hannity endorsement. But even without it, you can see in Q4 that they were substantial growth from where we were in Q2. And you can see the same thing with our sales. So even despite the pig in the python, you're seeing a steady increase. It's helped us from a cash position. We've generated a lot of cash. We're actually cash flow positive at the end of last year. So at this point, I'm going to open this up for questions. I'm going to stop the screen share here so we can see Chris's beautiful face.
Well, Brian, thank you again for an incredible presentation. I wanted to ask because I know you showed us something that nobody had seen, that I could potentially be second after Sean Hannity in the pre-orders for that device.
It's interesting. So we had a big managers meeting, and I took this out. And I said, who here wants one? Everybody's hand went up. And I said, well, the first one goes to me.
Okay.
We don't know, of the 50,000 people that have a Byrna HD, is there going to be 5% or 10% or 20% that want this tactical compact rifle? But it's going to be some percentage. We don't know of the 100,000 members of Byrna Nation who will want this. But we know that by expanding our product range and giving other types of products that are good for other types of situations. I mean, this is clearly not a concealable weapon. On the other hand, if somebody broke into your house and you had the option of picking up this,
right,
or picking up the tactical compact rifle, you know which one you would pick up.
Look, I can only speak for myself. In this case, I have two hands, but I only have one Byrna. So I have this one to use right now. But look, we have a lot of questions and we only have a finite period of time. We have 10 minutes. So what I think is, in this case, no pun intended, rapid fire in terms of answering all these questions, because we're going to have to do it very, very quickly. So when you're ready, let me know. I'll go through this. Okay. How big is the non-lethal market today, just here in North America, on the consumer end?
The non-lethal market in America, the consumer end, I don't know the exact number, but the biggest part of that market is pepper spray. And I would guess just roughly, we're probably talking about a market that's many hundreds of millions or maybe small billions.
How big is the non-lethal market for law enforcement?
The law enforcement non-lethal market in the United States represents maybe 10% of the overall market in terms of dollars. But the non-lethal market for law enforcement outside the United States is dramatically bigger. So where in the United States, 100% of law enforcement officers carry a lethal weapon and very few carry a non-lethal weapon. In the rest of the world, it's flipped on its head, where most law enforcement officers don't carry a lethal weapon. They carry only non-lethal. So we see a huge opportunity for us with law enforcement outside the US.
Does Taser Axon have more than 50% market share in the non-lethal market, both on the consumer end as well as law enforcement?
They've not been very successful on the consumer end. I'm not sure why. It's not been a big push of theirs. Their Taser Pulse, which is their consumer version, is more limited. I think has a 15-foot limitation. It's very expensive. It's a one and done weapon, so that you can't really practice with it if you miss somebody. So it never really took on in the consumer market. That said, they are the predominant less lethal product in law enforcement. However, as we've started to get into law enforcement, we're seeing a lot of people are unhappy with Taser, and that we think that there's an opportunity not for us to displace Taser, but to take some market share from Taser.
Roger this. Oh, they're still coming in. Okay. Is the Byrna HD exclusively made in the US? And have you ever thought about partnering with a larger manufacturer?
The Byrna HD right now is made both in South Africa and the US. The Byrna Elite, the next generation, will be made exclusively in the US. It is not the issue of manufacturing. We can significantly expand our manufacturing. The issue is supply chain. So at this point, a third-party manufacturer is not really the answer. The answer is to find more quality shops that can make the componentry.
Can you give us some color on how long it takes to assemble and what type of quality control you have in place?
It's like putting together a Swiss watch. So there's no real automation. As I said, there's 114 pieces inside this, very small piece of real estate. They range from springs, fasteners, screws, to machined parts, milled parts, metal injected molded parts, plastic injection molded parts. We use a lot of jigs, fixtures, and so forth, but it requires skilled workers. This thing is built in a batch basis, so we'll build trigger assemblies, we'll build valve assemblies, we'll build barrel assemblies. So it's not a situation where it kind of rolls down an assembly line. It's more like, as I said, building a Swiss watch. We're able, with a staff of 25 people in Fort Wayne, we're able to build 500 units in a day in one shift. So that sort of answers the question.
Can Canadians buy this?
Canadians cannot buy this currently. We are working on a round that will be an anti-bear round. Once we have created an anti-bear round, then the answer is yes. They can buy it for use against wildlife. Canadian law enforcement can buy it.
Do you disclose what percent of your revenues are international?
We do. Right now, it's relatively small. And again, that's largely because we've devoted all of our production to catching up in the US. But we anticipate this year that our sales will be approximately 18% international.
Outside of Amazon, do any retailers currently carry this, or are all your sales currently on the website?
Well, we, of course, have the brick and mortar dealers that carry it. But in terms of other e-commerce sites, we find our launchers on eBay. We find them on other sites, but these are not authorized resellers. So right now, the only authorized place to buy this is the Byrna website, and within a couple of months will also be Amazon.
Is it illegal in any states?
The launcher itself is not illegal in any states. It is prohibited in New York City, Washington, D.C., Portland, Oregon, and the chemical irritant rounds are prohibited in California. So our California compliant kit uses only the kinetic rounds. That said, California is our biggest market.
I was going to say, I think for California, it's specific to the yellow color, correct?
Well, it's not just the yellow color. I mean, we now sell all colors in California, but we cannot sell the pepper rounds because pepper spray is also illegal in California.
I did not know that. That's interesting. On the ammo side, do you disclose what the margins are?
Do we disclose specifically what the margins are?
Yes.
The margins are quite good on the ammo side. This is truly a razor blade model.
And then there was a comment slash question. I noticed that the ammo was recently sold out. Do we manufacture the ammo internally as well?
We are in the process, and most of my CapEx budget has been to develop our internal capabilities to manufacture the ammo. We see this as growing and growing and growing, and frankly, growing beyond the capabilities of our existing suppliers. So right now, we are just in the very early stages of producing our own ammo, but the goal will be by the end of 2021 that the majority of the ammo will be produced in-house by Byrna.
Do we have a timeline for the Byrna XL and Byrna PE as to when they can be available for purchase?
The XL, I think we're probably looking at 60 days. That is done, tested. It's now with the marketing team to put together the materials. The Byrna PE is a more complicated launcher. It is still in the design and testing stage. We're hoping that it will be available before the end of 2021, but possibly not until first half of 2022.
Any plans on carrying a smaller HD weapon?
Well, the PE and CP will be a much smaller weapon. And, I don't want to get in trouble by saying it, it's for women, but it is for people with smaller hands. So it is for people that want it to be more easily concealable. This was a complaint we got from the very beginning that people wanted a smaller launcher.
And then finally on this end, Brian, what does your sales team look like and how does it compare to when you guys first started?
Well, we just brought in this gentleman, Luan Pham, who came to us from Laird Superfoods. As I said, he was one of the founders of Laird, helped take them public this year in a phenomenally successful IPO, and has an amazing pedigree. He is really building up the sales organization. We will have a head of dealer sales. We will have a digital head of sales, but we are in the process of building that. I think what everyone needs to keep in mind is for the last 8 months, up until really this weekend, we've been back ordered. So, basically we've been saying on the website, please don't buy from us because we didn't want to create, more of a problem. So we're now having to shift gears from please don't buy from us to we're really interested in your business.
Awesome. Yeah. So let's do this. So there are 13 questions. We got to go really quick, Brian. Okay. Timeline for from going from the OTC to the NASDAQ.
We are in the process. I would say it's not under my control, but everything that's under my control will be done in the next 30 days.
Can you address the max projectiles?
The max projectiles have both OC and CS, and we were having a significant amount of confusion when people got to the website as to whether they wanted the pepper or the max. There was lots of questions. We decided to discontinue the Byrna Max kit. So right now, when you go on the website, you can buy a Byrna pepper kit or a kinetic kit. We are filling the Byrna Max orders. So we have several 100,000 Byrna Max projectiles, which are being used to fill all the old Byrna Max kits. They're being used to fill the 95 counts. They're being used to fill the 5 counts. We are also, if we do not sell this in conjunction with the launcher, we're checking with ATF as to whether we need any different licenses. We're getting a ruling from the ATF. If we do, we're in the process of applying for those licenses, but we anticipate the Byrna Max continuing to be offered as a sort of after sale availability. So while you will not be able to buy a Byrna Max kit, you will be able to buy your pepper kit and then, as many tubes as you want of Byrna Max.
And then, this is kind of a loaded question. Couldn't firing a non-lethal weapon at somebody result in getting shot back with a lethal weapon? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, look, I mean, I call that social Darwinism. I mean, we tell people not to pull this out if you're around the police. On the other hand, as I said, I carry a number of lethal firearms, including a 9mm. You've got to be a pretty good shot to stop somebody cold with a 9mm. I have to say, if you've been hit with a chemical irritant round, the Byrna Max or the Byrna Pepper, within a split second, you cannot see. If you cannot see, I don't care how tough you are, you cannot continue the fight. So I think, it's crazy. It's not as crazy as it sounds. I think that, you have a decent shot of coming out on the winning side with a Byrna launcher.
4 minutes. Is there any street coverage right now?
There is no street coverage right now, but again, we expect with the uplist that we will be able to get street coverage. And, I have been talking to analysts and courting analysts. So we're hopeful that concurrent with the uplist that we will start getting some street coverage.
Okie dokie. Let's see this. Is there a way to measure stopping power? Or as long as it gets in the eye, it's effectively, potent?
That's the answer. So long as it gets in people's face, it's going to stop somebody.
Richard,
and just to say that, the law enforcement often trains with, do they hit the wall behind somebody, the ceiling above somebody? So it just needs to get in their face. It doesn't need to actually hit them.
got it. Okay. And do you have enough cash on hand to fund your growth? Repeat sales seems likely to be rare. How do you expand your sales with existing clients?
We don't think repeat sales are rare. In fact, we think that this is a razor blade model. The vast majority of our customers come back, place multiple orders. We also think as we introduce new holsters, new gear, that we will get additional sales. The average gun owner buys 3.5 guns. So every 18 months, they upgrade, just like you upgrade your iPhone. We're hopeful that as we come out with the LE, with the CP, with the PE, with the tactical compact rifle, we will have people upgrading.
Jeff, thank you for the question. When are you going to turn on your digital marketing? How will it ramp?
We're going to be turning on our digital marketing sort of as we speak. I mean, Luan Pham is on board. He's putting the things in place, and we're looking forward to kicking that off.
Okay, we literally have 1 minute. And for those who have asked questions that I didn't get to, one, I apologize. And two, I will make sure that they get answered. Every single question will get answered. And then here we go. Let's see. Okay, we answered those. Let's see, although the same bait. Let's see. Okay, we've answered all them. Where can people find out more information on the company?
Go to our website, www.byrna.com. And you can also go to www.le.byrna.com to see the law enforcement website.
Brian, thank you again for your time today. I really appreciate it. And also happy birthday. I mean, it's within proximity, and I'll send you, I'll send you an email that'll make you laugh and smile. But again, I'm amazed. My sense is that when I actually hold this in my hand, I feel a lot better. I don't know what it is. It's like a good tennis racket. Yeah. And, hopefully I'll never have to use any of these weapons, but in a world like this where it's completely unpredictable, I feel that having production.
And you need to have your holster so you can carry it with you.
Oh, I don't have one of those. I just
see that's where the repeat business is.
Well, I guess I have another website to go to later this evening. But again, thank you. I'll see you on the other side, and best wishes moving forward.
Thank you very, very much. And thank you to everybody for participating. I really appreciate your interest in Byrna. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye now.